All right, good morning, everyone. Looks like we have everybody here, so we're going to get started. I'm Assistant Chief Dan Coppinger, and I'd like to welcome you to the West Hartford Police Department Annual Awards Ceremony, and thank you all for being here today. Before we begin our ceremony, I would like everyone to please stand for our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And before you sit down, I just want to have a brief moment of silence. You know, the last few days have been pretty difficult for police officers in our greater Hartford area. West Hartford Police, we had one of our officers assaulted a few days ago. She's going to be fine, and she's doing well. But as you know, or if you haven't heard, one of our sister officers in the city of Hartford is in critical condition right now after being assaulted in Hartford. So I'd just like to have a brief moment of silence for our fellow officer. Thank you. You can be seated. Well, first off, I'd like to thank a few people in the room today. First off, our town manager, Matt Hart, cannot be here today. He's heading up to a meeting in Vermont. He passes on his best wishes and thanks to our officers. Mayor Sherry Cantor, our mayor of West Hartford, thank you for being here. Our public safety chair, Mr. Leon Davidoff, thank you, sir. Other members of our town council, our distinguished guests, and of course my fellow officers, public safety dispatchers, our families and civilian staff from the West Hartford Police Department and our fire department. I'd like to acknowledge and thank the members of our commendations committee, whose names can be found on the back of your programs. They worked very hard in putting the program together and nominating our award recipients. I would also like to thank our records division for setting up our room today, as well as our refreshments, which we're going to have a little get-together in room 400 upstairs right after our ceremony, and you're all welcome to come. I would also, before you leave today, if you do need to validate your parking permits there, you can do so right here on the wall before you leave. And also, just by way of introduction, Assistant Chief Bob McHugh, who will be assisting me in the presentation of the awards. So now, for those of you who are not aware, the significance as to why we hold our award ceremony this time every year, this week is known nationally as Police Week. And it's a time when the law enforcement community pays special tribute to those in policing who have paid the ultimate sacrifice. And it's not only a time to remember those who are no longer with us, but also a time to remember the officers who have come before us and to celebrate those who have done exceptional police work. Here in West Hartford, we use this week to pay it forward to our police officers to recognize their exceptional police work. Also, to members of our community who have performed their civic duty, thereby helping to make our job a bit easier and the town safer. Before we get to the awards, I'd like to talk briefly about the work of our officers. 2017 was yet another year that saw the continued rapid succession of crisis for policing across the nation. Now early in 2018, the police world is still reeling. You can't open up a newspaper, listen to the radio, or watch the news without being bombarded with the news of police-related critical incidents. There's no doubt police officers have a tough job, and all too often, the price of doing their job results in injury or the loss of their life. The events that have occurred over the past several years have made it an especially challenging time to be a law enforcement officer. Every day that our officers walk in harm's way, they willingly place themselves between the law-abiding and the law-breaking to keep our community safe. And above all, they are compassionate, fair-minded, and courageous. They are the guardians of our community and work every day to enhance the quality of life for our citizens. We are also very fortunate to have citizen partners in our community that are also compassionate, fair-minded, and courageous. Our citizens are not only our eyes and ears, but they are willing to take action when a fellow citizen is in need. And we will begin our ceremony today with recognizing our citizen partners whose assistance and willingness to become involved has helped in a variety of ways. This partnership with our community is what makes our police department successful and our town one of the finest in the country. With that, I'd like to introduce the chair of our Town Council's Public Safety Committee, Mr. Leon Davidoff, who will begin the presentation of our recognition awards. Mr. Davidoff.
Good morning. It's always an honor to attend this ceremony. I've attended it since I began my tenure on the Town Council in 2007. And prior to that, I was here as a family member watching my father receive a Citizens Award way back when. So it's a very meaningful day for me and for the rest of our community. On behalf of my colleagues on the Town Council and the citizens of West Hartford, it's always important to recognize residents' involvement with our police department, as well as the men and women who serve our community 24/7 to protect and to serve. And I'm a firm believer that it's always appropriate to recognize a job well done, and that's what we're doing here this evening. So from the bottom of my heart, I express a heartfelt thanks. The first award that we would like to present today is the West Hartford Police Department Recognition Award. This is presented to an individual whose cooperation has aided the department in the prevention of a crime, the apprehension of a criminal, or has helped perform a valuable service. You would come up when I read your name. Ms. Maria Salas. On May 31st, 2017, Ms. Maria Salas was home when she observed an older man walk onto her neighbor's property and take a bicycle. Ms. Salas was able to take a photo of the man taking the bicycle and quickly notified her neighbor. Her neighbor confirmed the bike theft and called the police department to report it. Ms. Salas sent a copy of her photo to her neighbor, who forwarded it to the department. Officers responded immediately and were trying to locate the suspect when the victim, who had also stated to check the area, saw the suspect getting on the Connecticut Fast Track on her stolen bicycle. This information was given to the officers, who were able to get on the track and locate the suspect. Though he had changed his shirt, the photo was enough to positively identify him as the person that stole the bicycle. He was taken into custody and arrested on larceny charges. Without Ms. Salas's fast thinking and willingness to get involved, this suspect would not have been apprehended and the property would not have been recovered. The department is proud to present Ms. Maria Salas with the West Hartford Police Department Recognition Award for her help in this case. The next award that we would like to present today is a joint recognition award along with the West Hartford Police Department Life Saving Award. A Life Saving Award is presented to any sworn member or civilian member for a successful effort in saving a human life. Would the following individuals please come forward? Ms. Courtney Mellinson, Ms. Patricia Gleason, Public Safety Dispatcher Eileen Bartlett, Officer Peter Senick, Officer Nicholas Roman. Okay, it appears that none of these individuals were able to make it here, but it doesn't diminish the recognition. And let me read for the record what occurred. It's a pretty amazing story. On July 25th, 2017, Ms. Courtney Mellinson was headed back to work from lunch when she observed an elderly man lying on the ground. The man had apparently collapsed while mowing his lawn. Ms. Mellinson immediately called 911 to notify the department about the emergency. Public Safety Dispatcher Eileen Bartlett took the call from Ms. Mellinson and kept her on the line getting more information while simultaneously starting EMS services. Ms. Patricia Gleason, an advanced practice registered nurse, was also driving by and immediately stopped her car and started CPR on the victim. Officer Peter Senick was the first officer on the scene, arriving in under 4 minutes from the time the call came into the department. He immediately assisted Ms. Gleason and hooked up the AED as CPR was being conducted. Officer Nicholas Roman, the West Hartford Fire Department, and AMR ambulance arrived shortly thereafter. Officer Roman assisted with CPR. After the victim was given one shock from the AED, CPR was continued. A short time later, the victim was checked again, and he now had a pulse. He was transported to the hospital and, after receiving treatment, discharged to his home. The victim in this case was able to make a full recovery because of the quick notification by Ms. Mellinson, the quick implementation of CPR by APRN Patricia Gleason, the professional handling of the call by Public Safety Dispatcher Eileen Bartlett, and the actions of Officer Peter Senek and Officer Nicholas Roman, along with the good work by the West Hartford Fire Department and AMR ambulance crew. The department is proud to present Ms. Mellinson and Ms. Gleason a West Hartford Police Recognition Award, and Public Safety Dispatcher Eileen Bartlett, Officer Peter Senek, and Officer Nicholas Roman a West Hartford Police Life Saving Award for the actions in this case. It's now my privilege to recognize officers for their years of service. So if Captain Jeremy Clark, Officer Douglas Martindale, and Ms. Donna Allen, please come forward. We can recognize you for your years of service. Okay. Captain Jeremy Clark and Officer Douglas Martindale are receiving Years of Service Award for 20 years of service. And Ms. Donna Allen, Administrative Assistant, is receiving 25 Years of Service Award bar. And that basically concludes my portion of the meeting, and it's turn over back to Assistant.
Thank you, Mr. David. I would now like to introduce our mayor, Ms. Sherry Cantor, who will do the merit awards and the department citations. Thank you.
Thank you, Assistant Chief Coppinger. It is, again, like Leon Davidoff said, Councilor Davidoff said, this is such an honor to be here. It gives us a unique opportunity to say thank you and share our gratitude for what you do. And this week, as we recognize Police Week and we think about fallen officers and the two really brave heroes that are hopefully in recovery from such two difficult incidents. We reflect and we think about what you face every day. And the quote, bravery is not the absence of fear, but action in the face of fear is what you do every day. And it does not go unrecognized. I'm sorry that it's just once a year that we recognize, but we think about you all the time. We know that our community is one of the best in the country because of what you do every day. It is the foundation of our community, and we recognize that. And the compassion, fair-minded, and courageous that Assistant Chief Coppinger said, that is true. You operate with courage, honor, and self-sacrifice every day. And with that, we will recognize some of the really remarkable stories this year. So come on up when I call your name. Sergeant Anthony Anderley, Detective Jeremy Tangarone, Officer Eric Moylan, and Officer Robert Haas. As you come up, I will start to read the story. Thank you so much. On August 15th, 2017, Sergeant Anthony Anderley and Detective Jeremy Tangarone pulled into the 7-Eleven on Park Street to refuel. Sergeant Anderley and Detective Tangarone immediately saw a male outside the open driver's door of a car by the gas pumps, struggling with a male in the driver's seat of the vehicle. As they pulled closer to the vehicle jumped forward from the gas pumps, dragging one of the males for a brief time and then propelling him airborne for approximately 15 feet. The person dragged by the car was the car owner, and the car had just been carjacked. Thankfully, despite being thrown from the car, he suffered only minor injuries. The vehicle then left the lot at a high rate of speed and began to travel west on Park Street and struck the curb and a trash can on the south side of the street. The detectives followed in the unmarked vehicle and continued to update headquarters on what was occurring. The detectives continued to follow the car until a marked car came into the area. When the marked police car attempted to stop the car, it fled. The car was being driven at a dangerously high rate of speed and running red lights. The cruisers broke off the pursuit. A short time later, Officer Eric Moylan located the car at the intersection of South Main Street and Park Road and observed the driver running from the car. The driver having fled due to a flat tire the car had sustained. The responding officers quickly set up a perimeter to prevent the driver from getting away. Officer Moylan was quickly joined by Officer Robert Haas as they searched the area for the suspect. At this point, a police K-9 was requested to the scene, and Officer Haas went with Hartford Officer Walsh and K-9 Hondo. The suspect was located hiding in vegetation behind some houses and taken into custody. Due to the quick actions of Sergeant Anthony Anderley, Detective Jeremy Tangarone, Officer Eric Moylan, and Officer Robert Haas, a dangerous carjacking suspect was arrested. The West Hartford Police Department is proud to present these officers with a unit citation for their good police work. Thank you. Thank you. Congratulations. Sergeant Brett Policiano, Sergeant Thomas Lazur, Officer Raymond Narciso, and Officer Jeremy Gagnon, Officer Brian Wallace. So come on up. On September 1st, 2017, at 11:12 a.m., the West Hartford Police Department received a report of an active fire at 102 Oakwood Avenue. The fire started when a resident tried to extinguish a grease fire by throwing water on it, creating a large fireball. The fire quickly spread to other parts of the kitchen. Sergeant Brett Policiano, Sergeant Thomas Lazur, Officer Raymond Narciso, and Officer Jeremiah Gagnon, and Officer Brian Wallace responded to the call to assist. All officers and supervisors immediately entered the smoke-filled building and began to evacuate residents. Officer Gagnon climbed the balcony to a second-floor apartment, which was directly over the apartment where the fire was, entered the apartment, and assisted a handicapped male who had difficulty walking to exit the apartment. Officer Narciso, Sergeant Policiano, Sergeant Lazur entered the first-floor hallway and assisted residents to leave their apartments and smoke-filled hallway. Officer Wallace entered the building and assisted residents in leaving and also returned back into the building to search for pets that were left behind. The actions of Sergeant Brett Policiano, Sergeant Thomas Lazur, Officer Raymond Narciso, Officer Jeremiah Gagnon, and Officer Brian Wallace led to the successful evacuation of a building during which no residents were harmed. The West Hartford Police Department is proud to present a unit citation to these officers for their good police work in this case. Thank you. PSD Judith Morrell, PSD Lauren Radzinski, PSD Todd Hungerford, and PSD Nicole Salter. On February 2nd, 2018, a car was traveling on the eastbound side of Interstate 84 when it suddenly crossed into the center median where it struck a guardrail, became airborne, and then struck another car that was traveling in the westbound left-hand lane of Interstate 84. This created a chain reaction of accidents in which another 3 cars were struck or hit another car. The accident caused one person to become trapped in his car with serious injuries, and another person was ejected from their car. This was a mass casualty event occurring on a major Connecticut highway. PSD Judith Morrell, PSD Lauren Radzinski, PSD Todd Hungerford, and PSD Nicole Salter were working that evening in the Emergency Reporting Center. During the I-84 incident, the responders were continually updated with accurate, precise information, and all requests for more resources were handled promptly. This included communicating patient information with North Central CMED and response of 8 ambulances, 3 fire trucks, 3 medic units, and the battalion commander. All this while still answering other routine and emergency calls for assistance. PSD Judith Morell, PSD Lauren Radzinski, PSD Todd Hungerford, and PSD Nicole Salter handled a complex and rapidly involving police safety emergency efficiently, calmly, and professionally. The West Hartford Police Department is proud to present them with a unit citation in recognition of their good work in this case. Thank you. Thank you. Congratulations. Police Merit Award. The next award I would like to present, we will present today, is a joint unit citation along with a West Hartford Police Merit Award. A West Hartford Police Merit Award is presented to members of the department upon commission of intelligent and valuable police service which demonstrates a special faithfulness or devotion to duty. Would Sergeant Christopher Tyler please come up to receive his merit award, and would the following come up to receive their unit citation? Sergeant Aaron Vafiedes, Officer Michael Boughton, Officer Lauren Rieger, Officer Merrick Ferrader, Officer Matthew LaRiviere, Officer Jeremiah Gagnon, Officer Miguel Godoy, Officer Christopher Leonard, and Officer Jeffrey Swank. On August 14th, 2017, the West Hartford Police Department received a 911 call that a stabbing had just occurred on Hillcrest Avenue. Sergeant Christopher Tyler was nearby and was the first to arrive. Sergeant Tyler, with service weapon drawn, observed a female suspect with a pair of large scissors standing over the male victim who was lying on the ground. The male was bleeding from several stab wounds on his head, hands, and back. Sergeant Tyler, with his firearm down at his side, began to talk to the suspect, commanding her to drop the weapon. The suspect refused to move away from the victim and just kept repeating that she did not want to get shot. Sergeant Tyler assured her that he was not going to shoot her, but that she needed to talk to him and listen to his commands. After a few tense moments, the woman complied by throwing away the scissors, moving away from the victim, and allowing herself to be handcuffed. At this time, Officer Boughton arrived on the scene, and he and Sergeant Tyler took the suspect into custody as additional units arrived. Officer Matthew LaRiviere, Officer Christopher Leonard, and Officer Merrick Ferrader then tended to the victim's multiple stab wounds, to include cutting away his clothing, locating the wounds, and applying medical aid until hospital transport was feasible. Sergeant Tyler, Officer Jeremiah Gagnon, Sergeant Aaron Vafiedes, Officer Michael Boughton, Officer Jeffrey Swank, and Officer Miguel Godoy then conducted a protective sweep of the residents located, no further suspects or victims. Officer Lauren Rieger assisted with securing a crying juvenile, the daughter of the suspect, who was in the apartment doorway of the immediate scene. It was later learned that a violent domestic disturbance had occurred inside that apartment, where the suspect had stabbed the victim multiple times with a knife. The victim was able to flee the apartment and run outside. The suspect discarded the knife after the blade was bent, grabbed a pair of scissors, and ran after the victim. She was getting ready to assault the victim again, but was stopped by the quick actions of Sergeant Tyler. The West Hartford Police Department is proud to present a Police Merit Award to Sergeant Christopher Tyler, a Unit Citation Award to Sergeant Aaron Vafiedes, Officer Jeremy Gagnon, Officer Michael Boughton, Officer Miguel Godoy, Officer Lauren Rieger, Officer Matthew LaRiviere, Officer Christopher Leonard, Officer Merrick Ferrader, and Officer Jeffrey Swank for their good service work, police work in this case. Thank you so much. We will now continue with the presentation of the rest of the merit awards. Will Officer Nicholas Sanford please come up? Officer Sanford will be receiving 2 merit awards today. On September 30th, 2017, at 2:45 a.m., Officer Nicholas Sanford was patrolling on Clifford Road when he observed a vehicle in the driveway with its interior dome light on and the passenger side door slightly open. Officer Sanford was aware of a number of car burglaries that had been occurring in the neighborhood and was patrolling in an attempt to locate a suspect. He watched as a younger male began walking out of the driveway, stuffing money into his pants. Officer Sanford stopped the young male and asked him what he was doing in the neighborhood. The male answered evasively, saying he was walking to his house in the neighborhood but was unable to name any of the streets in the area. As Officer Sanford was talking to this male, a second male came walking down another driveway next door. Officer Sanford detained that male also. His excuse for being near the cars was that he had to relieve himself. Officer Sanford secured both men until the other officers arrived. At that time, a quick search of the area was done and several cars from different driveways had been burglarized. Both men were brought to headquarters and processed on burglary and larceny charges. These men were also linked to other car burglaries that had occurred on the previous days in the area. Officer Sanford's quick thinking and dedication to duty resulted in the apprehension of 2 teens who had been breaking into cars. The West Hartford Police Department is proud to present Officer Nicholas Sanford with Merit Award for his good police service work in this case. Thank you. And don't go anywhere. On October 26, 2017, at 6:18 a.m., Officer Nicholas Sanford was off duty when he observed a male wearing a black sweatshirt, black sweatpants, and white shoes walking out of a driveway on Sunny Reach Drive. Officer Sanford noticed that the interior lights of a car parked in the driveway were on and the door to the vehicle was cracked open. Officer Sanford checked the vehicle and saw that it had been rifled through. Officer Sanford began to follow the subject, who linked up with another male at another address on Sunny Reach Drive. He saw that they were actively breaking into cars in the driveway. Officer Sanford had his police radio with him, and while following the suspects, he notified dispatch of the active car burglaries. He directed the responding officers to the exact location of the 2 men, and both were taken into custody without incident. It was later determined that multiple cars had been broken into, and these males were part of a group that was routinely coming into town to break into and steal cars. Officer Sanford's quick thinking and dedication to duty, even when not on the clock, resulted in the apprehension of burglary suspects. The West Hartford Police Department is proud to present Officer Nicholas Sanford with a Merit Award for his good police work on this case. Thank you. We have another officer that will be receiving 2 Merit Awards today. Will Officer Brian Del Grande please come up? All right. We'll be clapping lots, okay? On January 20th, 2018, shortly after midnight, inside joke over there. Officer Brian Del Grande was on patrol in the area of Albany Avenue when he observed a male in dark clothing pushing a shopping cart in the roadway. Officer Del Grande stopped the male and explained that it was dangerous to be in the roadway at night. As he was speaking with him, he noticed that in the carriage was a large table saw and a trash bag full of paper towels and toilet paper still in the packages. The male claimed that he had found the items in a dumpster by Walgreens at Bishop's Corner. The male had a long, lengthy record for burglary and was also a suspect in a recent burglary that had occurred in the area a few days earlier. The suspect was also wanted on charges that he had escaped from a halfway house. The suspect was taken into custody on the warrant, and a further search of the carriage was made. The table saw had a marking stating property of Fed Square, I guess. Officers checked Federation Square and found that an office and storage room had been broken into. Additional charges of burglary and larceny were added and the stolen property returned. Officer Del Grande's attention to duty and observation skills led to the arrest of a professional burglar and the recovery of valuable stolen property. The department is proud to present Officer Brian Del Grande with a West Hartford Police Merit Award for his good work in this case. On October 14th, 2017, or at around 2 a.m., Officer Brian Del Grande was patrolling on Park Road. As he was patrolling, he observed an individual wearing dark clothing carrying a backpack on the sidewalk in front of Plan B. As the officer drove closer, he saw the male quickly duck behind a bush and attempt to conceal himself. Officer Del Grande drove past him, turned his cruiser around, and noticed that the male exited his hiding place and began walking down Park Road again. Officer Del Grande stopped the male and asked him what he was doing and what was in his backpack. The male gave evasive and contradictory answers. However, the male did give Officer Del Grande permission to look into his backpack. Inside the backpack were various items, including 2 GPS units with different addresses saved in the home address section. Upon further investigation, it was determined that these had just been stolen from cars from 2 different homes. The suspect, who was 16 years old, was turned over to his parents and referred to juvenile court on burglary and larceny charges. The suspect was believed to be involved in numerous other car break-ins in the area over the last several weeks. Officer Del Grande's keen observation while patrolling, as well as his quick thinking, resulted in the apprehension of an individual who had broken into numerous vehicles. The West Hartford Police Department is proud to present Officer Brian Del Grande with a merit award for his good police work in this case. Officer John Cardone? No. Okay, but I will read it. On September 7th, oh, he's coming? Okay. On September 7th, 2017, the back door. Stage left. On September 7, 2017, Officer John Cardone was off-duty shopping at Walgreens on Farmington Avenue. After paying and proceeding to the parking lot, Officer Cardone saw a male running from the premises carrying a backpack. The man was followed closely by 2 Walgreens employees, one of whom was on the phone. Officer Cardone immediately recognized that this party was involved in some sort of criminal activity. The suspect had just shoplifted several items from the store. The suspect entered a vehicle and headed eastbound on Farmington Avenue. Officer Cardone followed the vehicle and called dispatch, who confirmed that a shoplifting had just been called in by Walgreens. Officer Cardone took a picture of the vehicle, capturing the license plate. The vehicle eventually pulled over on Sisson Avenue, and the suspect fled, with Officer Cardone in foot pursuit. Officer Cardone was able to relay where the suspect was running until he lost sight of him. As officers were searching the area, they approached Mr. Juan Davia and asked him if he had seen the suspect. He reported that he had seen him running south on South Whitney Street a few moments earlier. Officers proceeded in that direction to look for the suspect. A short time later, Mr. Davia saw the suspect. He flagged down a passing officer to report that he had just seen the suspect again and that he had fled behind the apartment buildings. Officer responded to that area and captured the suspect. It was due to Officer Cardone's fast thinking and his pursuit of this suspect that led to his arrest. The West Hartford Police Department is proud to present Officer John Cardone with a merit award for his good work in this case. Officer Brian Gallagher. On September 30th, 2017, Officer Brian Gallagher was off-duty shopping at Walmart store in Newington, Connecticut. As he was shopping, he witnessed a woman running from the store with 2 employees chasing her. One of the employees was on his cell phone giving someone a description of the woman. Realizing that the woman had just committed a crime, Officer Gallagher also joined in the foot chase. The woman ran into a nearby car and began to enter as Officer Gallagher displayed his badge and was ordering her to stop. She got into the car and the driver began to back out of the space. Officer Gallagher went in the front of the vehicle and told the driver to stop. Instead of stopping, the driver put the car into forward gear and sped away, forcing Officer Gallagher to step out of the way or be struck by the car. Officer Gallagher was able to get the license plate of the car and gave that information to the Newington Police Department, who were able to stop the car a short distance away. Officer Gallagher then went to the stop location to identify the 2 suspects. The woman had just stolen $150 worth of merchandise from Walmart. Additionally, drug paraphernalia and 5 small baggies of cocaine were located in the car. The West Hartford Police Department is proud to present Officer Brian Gallagher with a merit award for his good police work in this case. I'm sorry. Detective Benjamin Del Monte and Detective Stephen, all right, Charleglio. Yes. I'm working on it. The Sunoco station on Farmington Avenue had been robbed in the early part of 2017 4 times through June, and it was believed that all of the robberies were committed by the same suspect, who threatened the attendant and what appeared to be a pistol under his shirt. The photographs from the robberies had been released to the public, but no tips had come in. Detective Benjamin Del Monte and Detective Stephen Charleglio, oh my gosh, printed out 100 flyers and canvassed the Farmington Avenue businesses and residents. The first citizen that was approached with the flyers recognized the suspect and pointed the detectives in the direction of an apartment building in Hartford. The detectives went door to door and eventually came to the apartment where the suspect opened the door. After a brief interview in the suspect's apartment, he confessed to all 4 robberies. The clothes that had been worn in all of the robberies were recovered at this time. The detective's attention to duty and good investigative techniques led to the apprehension of a robbery suspect. The West Hartford Police Department is proud to present Detective Benjamin Del Monte and Detective Stephen Charleglio a merit award for their good police work in this case. And again, I apologize if the Officer John, is it begin or begin? Begin? Sorry. Okay. Officer Began. On March 25th, 2018, while on patrol, Officer Began noticed a suspicious person walking up and down driveways in the eastern part of town in the area of Prospect Avenue. Officer Began recognized the man and knew that he had an extensive criminal history, which included prior convictions for burglary, larceny, and trespassing. Officer Began was also aware that the man was suspected of a rash of current package thefts occurring in this area of town. He watched as the man walked to the rear of an apartment building into the parking area. Officer Began lost sight of the man and set up a surveillance in the area. A short time later, he watched the male exit from the front of the building. The building and grounds of the apartment building were clearly marked no trespassing. Officer Began stopped the suspect and asked him what he was doing at the building. The man gave conflicting answers as to why he was there and could not identify anyone in the building that he was trying to visit. Since the suspect was in the area that was posted no trespassing and that he was not authorized to be an, Officer Began arrested the suspect on trespassing charges. Since that arrest, the suspect had also been charged in another burglary case and was being held on bond awaiting his trial. Due to Officer Began's diligence and attention to duty, at least one burglary was prevented and a convicted felon was taken into custody. The West Hartford Police Department is proud to present Officer Began a merit award for his good police work in this case. Sergeant Carrie Kluge. On August 30th, 2017, at 2:20 a.m., Sergeant Carrie Kluge was traveling west on Farmington Avenue in a marked police vehicle while he observed a man with a black backpack riding on a dark bicycle. There had been a rash of early morning car burglaries in our town, as well as many other surrounding towns. The male appeared to have seen Sergeant Kluge as he immediately drove out of sight. Sergeant Kluge radioed dispatch to have other units come to the area to attempt to locate the suspect. Sergeant Kluge located the man, who was now standing under an overhang attached to the apartment building. He stopped and began to inquire as to where he was coming from and going. Upon further investigation, he discovered that the bike he was riding had been stolen from the area of Fleming's Steakhouse. The suspect was also in possession of several drop-off envelopes from Modern Tire, which led officers to that business, where they discovered that the suspect had attempted to steal a vehicle. The suspect was arrested on larceny charges and the bicycle was returned to its owner. It was also soon discovered that the suspect had 7 outstanding warrants for failure to appear from several area departments. Through Sergeant Kluge's attention to duty, a car burglary, a potential car theft was arrested, and a wanted person taken off the streets. The West Hartford Police Department is proud to present Sergeant Kluge with a merit award in recognition for his good police work in this case. The next award that we would like to present today is the West Hartford Police Department Life Saving Award. This award is presented to any sworn member of the sworn member or civilian member for a successful effort in saving a human life. Officer Joseph Hopkins and Officer Timothy Cameron. On November 21st, 2017, at 2 a.m., Officer Timothy Cameron and Officer Joseph Hopkins were traveling in a marked police cruiser and giving transportation to an intoxicated individual to his home in Hartford. As they were driving down Capitol Avenue, they saw a man on the side of the road, hunched over and waving at them. They could hear the man saying, "Help me." The officers notified dispatch of their location and went to the aid of the man, who initially told him he had been shot. They laid the victim on the ground and found 2 life-threatening injuries. On his leg was an 8 to 9 inch laceration that exposed the victim's bone. There was also a severe laceration to his right wrist, which appeared to have cut into an artery and was bleeding heavily. Officer Cameron applied a tactical tourniquet to the left leg to the injured party, while Officer Hopkins applied a tactical tourniquet to the upper arm. Both officers rendered additional medical aid until the ambulance arrived on the scene to continue care. The case was taken over by the Hartford Police Department as it occurred in their district. Due to the immediate and professional emergency medical treatment that Officer Cameron and Officer Hopkins gave this victim, he was able to make a full recovery. The West Hartford Police Department is proud to present the Life-Saving Award to Officer Timothy Cameron and Officer John Hopkins. Okay, try this again. Sorry, Aaron. Sergeant Aaron Vafiadis? Vafiadis. I'm sorry for some reason. Vafiadis. Officer Christopher Lythe, Officer Jeremiah Gagnon, and, Vafiadis. Sorry. On January 8th, 2018, the West Hartford Police Department received a call that a man had collapsed behind the Corner Pug restaurant and was possibly having a heart attack. Sergeant Vafiadis was in the area when he was the first to arrive. The victim's wife told the sergeant that they had finished eating in the restaurant and they were walking back to the car when her husband suddenly collapsed. Sergeant Vafiadis checked for a pulse and finding none, immediately started CPR. Officer Jeremiah Gagnon and Officer Christopher Lythe, along with the West Hartford Fire Department and AMR ambulance staff, arrived shortly after that. Sergeant Vafiadis and Officer Gagnon and Officer Lythe all assisted with CPR while the victim received additional medical treatment. As the victim was being put into the ambulance, he began to regain his pulse. He was treated at the hospital and after a short stay, sent back home with a full recovery. The West Hartford Police Department is proud to present Sergeant Aaron Vafiadis, Officer Christopher Lythe, and Officer Jeremiah Gagnon with a life-saving award for their good work in this case. Thank you. The last award we will present today is the Distinguished Services Award. A Distinguished Service Award is presented to a member of the department who, in the intelligent performance of his or her duty and at personal danger, apprehends or through his or her actions causes to be apprehended a dangerous felon. Officer Aaron Thomas. All right. On October 18, 2017, the West Hartford Police Department received a frantic call from a driver who said that he was being followed by a car with 4 people in it who were trying to shoot him. He advised our dispatchers that he had been sitting in the car parked in Hartford when he was approached by a man with a gun trying to rob him. The victim stated that the car had broken off the chase in the area of Bishop's Corner and was now headed at a high rate of speed east on Albany Avenue towards Hartford. Officer Aaron Thomas heard heard the call and moved into the area. He was able to get behind the suspect's car. He attempted to pull the car over, but the driver refused to stop, began to accelerate, ran multiple red lights, and failed to stop for multiple stop signs. At one point, when Officer Thomas tried to box the car in, the suspect rammed his cruiser. Soon, both Hartford and West Hartford units were involved in the chase. The vehicle popped a tire and suddenly pulled into a driveway, the occupants running from the car. Officer Thomas began to pursue the suspects on foot. Officer Thomas was alone as he chased one of the suspects through the backyards. He got close enough to deploy his taser, striking the suspect in the back. The suspect immediately dropped to the ground and was able to be handcuffed. It was later learned that this was an attempted carjacking by the suspect using a handgun. The car and its occupants were also linked to several other street robberies that had occurred in both Hartford and West Hartford. With the arrest, that crime spree ended. It was through Officer Thomas's direct actions that a dangerous felon was apprehended. The West Hartford Police Department is proud to present Officer Aaron Thomas with the Distinguished Service Award for his good police work in this case. Congratulations to all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor Cantor. Well, all of you, this concludes our ceremony today. Congratulations to all of our award recipients. Thank you all for being here to honor both our police officers as well as our friends and supporters among the public. All of you are welcome to come upstairs to room 400 for refreshments, and have a great rest of the day and a wonderful weekend. Thanks.
She was presented a joint award with the first one we were doing with civilians. So that's, yeah.
She came in afterwards.
Yeah, because we were doing the joint.